Mhm.
like the pros, the professionals. Anyways, welcome to the Completely Unreasonable tour, the intro episode, whatever that means. No, I just wanted to get on, man, and talk about what this is for you and me, and what it means to be unreasonable, and what I hope to achieve. So, I think for me, man, being unreasonable is kind of living a life that is, I don't want to say opposite or contrary to standard life, but on your own terms, in the face of, in spite of. I think the way I like to think about it the most is being the guy who's stoked in a room full of people who are having a bad time,
Mhm.
right? Being the person who finds adventure to still be seductive and awesome and wanting more and being unapologetic about it.
Mhm.
Living on your own terms, dying on your own terms.
Mhm.
So I think that's being unreasonable, and that's what one of the things I hope to do is I want to talk to really cool and unreasonable people who have led interesting lives, but also I want us to be able to learn and talk to people who have skills, mindsets, attitudes, beliefs that can help me and everyone else become more unreasonable. Because I think this is one of those things where one of the coolest things about a podcast is what you can learn, what you can gain from it. But it's also an attempt for myself and for hopefully others to be a Sherpa, um, and find our way into a more unreasonable life. So I don't
We've
know.
talked about,
What's your take, man?
we've talked about that before. Like, what's a Sherpa? And when you're thinking about what a Sherpa is, a Sherpa is different than a guide in my eyes. A guide is someone who you're following behind, that's showing you the way up the mountain. That you're walking behind them and you're looking at the back of their pack, and I'm going where this guy's going or this gal's going, and this is going to take me to where I want to go. I think the difference between a Sherpa and a guide is a Sherpa is somebody who is there to support you on the journey, and they're going to allow you to find your way to that destination without necessarily always pointing out for you exactly what the next path is that you have to take. There's an element of personal responsibility, being willing to fuck around and find out, being willing to go this path. And if I'm a good Sherpa, if I see you going a way that maybe might not be the way that I would go, but if I see that that's going to get you to the destination that we started off on this anyway, then that's the gig. That's the job. It's providing you a framework for things. And I think through a collection of stories and life experiences and ways that folks live and have chosen to change their lives, that's been the biggest thing for me, is that it's not is realizing very, very late in life, and not in some sad sack way, but realizing very late in life that you can just change it.
Yeah.
You can just change things. Like, that's it.
You
could just do stuff different. Yeah. You can just do stuff different.
That's one of those ones, man. Like, most people forget they're in control, or they don't even forget they don't know how in control of their life they are or are not. And so that's one of the, I think, tenets of being unreasonable, which I think for some people is completely the opposite. To them, that's reasonable. But I think everybody, when they encounter this life or that thing where they take control of their life and they start to really put it together, people start looking at them like they're just that. Like, you're so unreasonable. Like, how can you do that? And that's what I want to lean into. And I think there's something you hit on that's important, and that's for me, it's many routes but one path. Right? Like, I don't want this to be a thing where it's do what I do or say what I say or come to the same conclusions. It's, I'm stoked when you find your fire, and whether that fire is powerlifting, whether that fire is fucking hunting, whether it's whatever the thing is, that's what I want. And I want more people to embrace whatever it is that keeps them warm, at that fire. So, yeah, man, I think that's what we're looking for, and I'm really excited to finally get this thing on the road after years of threatening and talking shit about doing it. Now having people scheduled and a platform, I'm pretty stoked and excited.
Mm-hmm. And one of the things that I can tell you I'm excited about is hopefully hearing the way that people will hear things that we talk about or we talk about with other people, and then how they apply it to what their own version of that fire is. So not hearing these stories, and to your point, not hearing these stories and then saying, oh, well, I need to go do that then. I need to go start doing this. It's leaning into and, putting more coal or tinder or whatever on your own fire of what that thing is. And no matter how much somebody else in your orbit gets it or not, if it's your thing and if it's not having a detrimental effect on anybody else and it's a thing that gets you going, good. More power to you. Congratulations, as a wise man once said.
Yeah, I think that's the thing, man. I think you hit the nail on the head. But I'll also say this: like, one of the aspects I think of being a Sherpa or being a guide or however you want to call it is, in order to lead an unreasonable life, there are certain things that have to happen, and that's also what I want this to be a part of, right? Like, in order to lead an unreasonable life, you have to be able to confront fear. You have to be able to confront certain things, and how you do that might be differently than everyone else. But the more we can talk to people who have, done it in their own way or done it in a specific way, or even if it's everyone's way seems to be the same, because I imagine there's parallels we'll find.
Yeah, I think that 100%. You're going to find stuff where it's going to sound, it has to at some point. It has to sound I should say it has to, but it's going to, I imagine. There's going to be through lines and themes that develop of the way choices are made and decisions are made and things are rationalized and things are determined to be risky versus reckless. And, what's the equation for this stuff? What's the equation for, as you've talked about many times, what's the equation for mitigating risk or evaluating risk in situations?
Yeah, I think, that one. Is it reckless or is it risky, and how do you mitigate risk is a big one, man. But no, I'm excited. I'm stoked. There's a lot of folks that I want to talk to. We have some people scheduled that I think will be interesting to kind of lay out a way forward for everybody who listens. Is we will have some podcasts that will be Zoom, right? We'll do the typical Zoom call in and everything else. And then we have some podcasts where we're actually going to go out, see the person, hang out with them, do whatever it is they do, cook a meal, and then sit down and podcast with them. And so it kind of turns into a bigger production. But I think that's one of the things I've learned in life is a way to get, I don't want to say instant connection, but to get a close connection fast is shared suffering and through food. And so if we can get a workout in or a training session or whatever it is, and then go right to being able to eat and or cook for somebody, then eat, then that's the way we can manufacture that period and kind of skip the bullshit, right?
Yep.
The piece where everybody says, like, well, I hate small talk. Well, sometimes small talk's a price of entry, and the way to skip it is to, like, let's go out here and suffer together. Let's go out here and then share a meal and break bread. So
where you're creating shared experiences. You're creating a shared experience as a way to have this is a starting point. Yeah.
And then, who knows what that means what you get into when we go interview somebody who likes to throw a ruck on, or somebody who likes to run. I don't run right now.
We'll see how that goes.
Or whatever the thing is, and so I think it'll be exciting. I'm stoked, and I can't say that enough. I've probably said it 3 times already. Yeah, man.
There's 3 words that I realized have entered into my lexicon over the past year, and it's words that can be used in the most simplest ways, but they're words that I've just developed as shorthand for things. It's saying shit is Rad, saying something is dope, or saying I'm stoked about something. It all sounds like some real simple vocabulary, but I'm very aware of, at least for me personally, what the nuance of those words mean. And they all mean something very different now than they used to. Yeah. And they carry a weight with them that I know when I see something that I know is that thing, I know what it is now. It's not like I used to think I got stoked for movies.
Yeah.
Right. Like I used to think that and I still love movies, but I used to think that my definition of what's rad was, Avengers Infinity War. Well, the bar has been raised on what rad is. And I'm excited about continuing to raise my definition of that through experiences rather than just things I passively partake in.
No, I do. I love that. I think if there's anything I can gift other people or myself, it is experiences. And I think that last year was a gift in itself, right? And experiences. So I'm looking forward to doing some wild things and building a crazy existence and talking to some people that hopefully blow my socks off, knock my brains out, whatever the saying is.
knock my socks out.
Yeah.
I would say to that point real quick, I guess also, I hadn't really thought about that. That's all my year was last year, was experiences.
Yeah.
I had more experiences last year in one single calendar year than I probably have had in my entire life. I've done things. That's not the same. Doing things and having an experience is not the same thing.
That's exactly the point of this, right?
Right.
It's like, how do I take what we experienced last year, what I've been experiencing over the last 5 years, and then shove it into a package where somebody can go, oh shit, I now have control, and now I can be and live unreasonable, even within the confines of, I like this idea of being extraordinary while ordinary at the same time. Because I think so many of us were sold this lie or this idea that we had to be rock stars or the whole Fight Club thing, right? We had to be rock stars and movie gods. But the reality is like you can have a super fucking dope life as long as you're you're at the wheel, right? As long as you're at the wheel and you're making choices for future you, and also maybe even in a bit of a romantic sense, right? Have you seen the movie Secondhand Lions? That scene where Hub grabs that dude is the thing that I think a lot of us maybe didn't think about as we were younger. Meaning like, now that I know I can curate my life, now that I'm aware and actively doing that, I could have curated it in a way where adventure was the only thing or was the main thing or, whatever. I don't know exactly how to couch that, but to me, I think about that scene. I think about even the thing that we just talked about with Derek Witzke, right? Like there's this life that you can live, and so many of us get caught up in for lack of a better term, the side hustle, the side missions, the bullshit missions, instead of the ones where it's like, actually, I've swam in every ocean. I've put my toes in every sea. I've had exotic foods in these crazy locales. I have this idea in my head where it's I'm in love with songs I've never heard, food I've never tasted, and places I've never been, conversations I've yet to have. And I say it to myself quite often because for me, it's one of those things, like one of the other aspects or tenets of being unreasonable, which is probably the most reasonable thing you should do, is I try to find a way to fall in love with my life every day.
Also, what I would say, the hardest thing to do without needing to put effort into it. What I mean is that requires work. It requires work to find that and to fall in love in ways that are new. and are fresh. Not because something's stagnant, but as we've talked about before, if you're a person who knows that you're a pursuer of things, then come to terms with the fact that you're going to be in a pursuit for the rest of your life. That doesn't mean that I don't think that means that you are unable to find peace or unable to find happiness or whatever it is.
So it's like when you find, it's like, I've said this for a while now. It's like the difference between chaos and drama.
Right.
Right. Like you grow up and like you meet these people, whether it's relationships or whatever, certain people think that they cause drama, but what they really like is chaos. Mm-hmm. And they don't know how to distinguish between the two. So quite often they're running around just starting shit when all they really should be doing is figuring out how to spin 7 productive plates instead of starting fires.
Right. Fires. Right. Yeah. And those two things get misconstrued. Those are not the same thing. Spinning plates and starting fires are not the same thing.
Yeah.
Those are two very different things.
Say that again?
No, I just said those are two very different things, but very easily to look at them as the same thing, I think.
Yeah.
Or maybe not look at the same thing, to think you're doing one when really you're doing the other.
Yeah, and that's what I think you're saying too, is like it's really easy to be like, oh, this is what I'm doing, and then really all you're down a different rabbit hole.
Right.
So,
and I would say, my thing is when trying to figure out what do I hope to give to anyone who's interested in receiving it. We've talked so much over the past, time that we've known each other, and specifically over the past year with the other projects that we're a part of, just this concept of time and what does time mean. And for me, it's coming to this, maybe like my Sherpa designation, which is that I can't go back and change anything that I've done. I do not have the capacity to do that. But if I have the capacity to share the experiences I've had, help share more of the experiences with anyone else, that it's going to give them more time back in the future that I can't go back in the past and reclaim, that's the goal. That's my goal. Whether it's health, whether it's experiences, whether it's parenting, whether it's whatever, it's nothing ever coming across as, hey, I'm an expert. It's like, hey, this is how it went for me. And this is what I have since done differently. And here we are now.
It's the idea of, I want you to steal a phrase from you, having unlocks early.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like, one of the things that I have tried to do over the past couple of years is every mistake that I've ever made, I try to be really transparent about it, because especially the painful ones, right? There's certain mistakes that I'm not going to say you gloss over, but they happen. But especially the painful ones, I don't want somebody to have to do or deal with the things that I dealt with, right?
Right.
So my goal is always to be like, I want you to understand this so you don't have to go through this, because it sucks.
Yep.
And it's kind of like the whole, there's a difference between being smart and wise.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like, smart, you learn from your own mistakes. Wise, you learn from others' mistakes. And there's a lot of mistakes in libraries and in conversations that you can glean very easily, instead of just being like, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go out here and not listen to a single fucking person and just run face first into this wall 30 times, which is what I
right. Done that once or twice. I think about it in this way too. My kids and we just got done playing through the story mode in the Miles Morales PlayStation Spider-Man game. And what happens is, once you play through the story mode, you level your character up and you increase all his powers. And now you're just, he was already gnarly, but now you're just like super powerful. And what you can do is, after you play through it, it calls it New Game Plus. You can start a new game, but you start with all your powers. So you still get to enjoy the story of the game. You still get to enjoy the experience of the game, but now you're fully powered up and equipped. So my goal is to set up a New Game Plus for people, hand you a controller, and say, this is going to be a lot of fun.
I like that. but you can also tell how ill versed I am in video games because I didn't know that was a thing.
Yeah, well, yeah, no, I'm pretty rusty myself. And after we found out, I was like, oh, this is sweet. Now I can just start from the beginning, but now I'm just murked out and I have all the skill trees unlocked and everything. But that's really the way that I see this shit. I view last year as I played through the game. Not all of it. Don't get it twisted. Nobody thinks they played the whole game. I played through a good portion of the game. I leveled up some skill trees. We learned some new shit. And now it's, oh, let's keep playing. And now we're going to experience some of these other things with having these power levels increased and see how it feels.
Quite often what I feel like is a kid who got a new toy. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, guys, you got to come over here and see this. This is cool. Yeah. Like, you didn't know this existed?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's how I feel about so many things is I'm like, it's like, I don't ever want to try and be an expert because, one, I've found how many times I'm an idiot. Right. And I also have met experts in real life. And so I'm always like, okay. You know, I don't know if I told you this about the scientist the other day who comes in and starts talking about lava in the Pleistocene era. Mm-hmm. So anyways, I had a conversation with a scientist the other day. And I'm
a scientist. You just a scientist. I picture he had a coat on and he has a name tag on that just says scientist.
He is the straight up embodiment of scientist that you think, like wild hair.
Suit, okay, yeah.
Very thin, ill-fitting suit. Comes in, he's crazy. He's got the globe in his hand, and he's like talking about this area of Russia, and he's like this thing here, and he's talking about volcanic ash and woolly mammoths, and I'm like, whoa! But I was locked in. But anyways, that's a subject matter expert, and I realize that, and I don't ever want to try and be that because I'm not. But what I do like is the idea that, again, like I like knowing I have a shiny new toy that you should probably have too. Mm-hmm. And again, like we'll Sherpa our way through this thing. It's a slog. Yeah. Right? We're going up. Like, I don't know, man. It's have you seen 14 Peaks?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's that scene in 14 Peaks where he doesn't have any oxygen and we both know it, but that's what we're doing is we're stumbling our way through, hopefully talking to some cool people who help give us some new skills or unlocks or attitudes and beliefs. And like you said, man, last year for me was much the same. I had a couple conversations last year and a couple of experiences that I, to this day, still think about, and I don't know that I'll ever not think about them. Mm-hmm. And just my experiences over the last 5 years, man, like the ability to say yes and put myself in uncomfortable situations and also do the other work that allows these things to happen, man. So,
and see, this is the difference. If I was in that room with that scientist, he would have given all that stuff, and I would have been like, "But could we really do a Jurassic Park?" Those are the kind of questions I'm asking.
So, have you heard about the woolly mammoth?
Yeah. Cut the video feed. Cut the video feed.
The de-extinction company.
Yeah.
They're bringing the woolly mammoth back in like a year or two or some shit.
I'm here for it. Sounds like a good episode.
Listen, I'm not mad at it, but this is how you get zombies.
That's right.
Like this is like The Last of Us.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. This is how this happens.
It is. You play a little too fast and loose.
Yeah, but I mean, I'm here for it. Like,
yeah.
I'm good.
Well, mark it down. Mark it down. Timestamp this. That's where this is going to be the first closure of this first chapter is when we're standing and talking to the guy who brought the woolly mammoth back. And be like, hey, man, let's bring it full circle. You're completely unreasonable. You brought back a woolly mammoth.
I mean, they really are.
Yeah,
really
I know.
Are the definition of unreasonable. Some guy woke up probably out of a haze and was like, you know what's a great idea?
Fuck it.
Mammoths.
Fuck it. Yeah.
Fucking bring mammoths back.
Yeah, and I'm the guy who's there, and I'm like, "Fuck yeah, it is. Let's make two, right?" Yeah.
So here's a question, and then we'll bring this thing home for an intro, and it doesn't have to be people. What's a thing or an idea that you want to explore or talk to somebody about while we have this thing? The tour that never ends going.
Mm-hmm. I am perpetually, because of my background, which I will talk more about, and in future conversations, I'm perpetually fascinated by the way people process. I use the word trauma, but I'll use it lightly. I'm fascinated by the way that people incorporate challenging, traumatic situations into what comes next in their lives. How does that lay a roadmap for their decision-making tree from that experience? Better or for worse, not judgment.
Yeah.
I'm just fascinated by what happens to human beings after they experience terrible things. Not in a weird, like, voyeuristic way or anything, but
there's a whole piece about World War II, and they went back and interviewed people, and so many of them were saying that life was better during World War II.
Mm-hmm.
And there's this whole idea about stress and how you view stress and how stress changes you depending on how you view it. Mm-hmm. Right? Like there's people, they say, like, if you're the kind of person who says, like, stress will crush me, then that's what it does. Mm-hmm. Whereas, like, if you're the kind of person who goes, stress will grow me and stress will do this, then that's exactly what happens. Mm-hmm. So when you say that, that's what registers to me. And I'm always fascinated by people and their ability to be resilient. I mean, it's one of the reasons why I think endurance is so crazy for me, is because I'm like, I don't know how they survived it.
Well, and realizing too, and it's my personal experience with it, the possibility of shit that you said, not you, I, myself, never thought was a possibility. And turns out that I'm not really sure of a lot that isn't possible anymore. And you can take that either as a practical way or as a woo-woo way, but just in a way of like, my curtain of I don't know about that has kind of fallen.
Well, I think it's like the thing we talked about on some private calls and stuff before is that, and that's, I would rather believe in the thing that gives me more power, what sounds crazy and might even be offensive, than the thing that takes away any power I have.
Right.
That's where I'm at this point. And that goes for beliefs like that. Like, you know, if I have a belief and it sounds insane to you, oh well, right? And that's what I mean, again, it's what I learned last year. It's what I've learned over the past 5 years. And then the more I encounter people who share very similar beliefs, like, oh no, you know, I saw a thing today where it was like, I was born with sure, I can do that gene. And I was like, well, I identify with this hard because that's how I view 90%.
Yeah, see, so to this point, right? I was not born with that gene. I wasn't born either with a gene. I was born with this is some things, this is what you're skilled at, this is what you're good at, or this is what you're whatever, but that's not for you. That's not based off of anything. Like I don't have any, you know, you talk a lot and it's one of the biggest things I've taken from you is the data. I don't have data that showed me I couldn't do those things because I never tried them.
Yeah.
So it wasn't like I tried and failed. It just came from I did not have that gene. And so, you know, much like the brilliant Dr. John Hammond or this gentleman who's going to bring the woolly mammoth back, somebody did some genotherapy on me and you were a big part of the splicing in that lab. And now here we are. So it turns out, you know, you can make dinosaurs.
I hope that's what we do, is just make a bunch of dinosaurs and monsters and unreasonable people who go after things. And also in going after them, realize that, like, you might fall. Yep. You might, like, you cannot get on the field and throw a touchdown without the possibility or the actual happening of interception. You cannot be a part of the game and not get hurt. You know, the receipt comes due at some point. And when it comes due, I think you have an option of being like, fuck, man. Or you have the option of being like, yo, it's been a rad fucking ride. You know, it's kind of like my hip. Kind of like my hip right now. So it's been a rad ride. and hopefully we can put Humpty Dumpty back together. But if we can't, I'll find a new fucking hip and trash that one.
Mammoth hip. We're gonna get some mammoth.
I'll trash another one. I don't care.
Oh God, that's where this ends up. This ends up with an episode where you're getting injected with mammoth genomes. I'm here for it. I'm gonna write it down.
I mean, let's do it.
Mammoth. I'm gonna look back.
I grew up as a kid who wanted to be RoboCopped.
Oh yeah. Please volunteer. Yeah. Here. Yeah. Yeah. You don't need to.
RoboCop, and I was like, sure.
Yeah. I'll stand there and let Clarence Bottinger gun me down if it means I get to be RoboCop. If you promise me I'm going to come back as RoboCop, litter me with bullets.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
I'm good.
This is exactly how I grew up, and this probably says a lot about my personality. But, I mean, much like the Carl Weathers Arnold thing, like those
things you thought were cool.
Yeah, they're still cool.
Yeah.
For that side point, like that was a mini rant. Because I don't understand people with most of the things that I thought were cool when I was younger. The ideas of them are still cool. Maybe not the movies, because some of those movies are pretty.
No, to that point, right? This is I mean, we've talked about this before. The shit I looked at that I thought was cool when I was little because of proximity. I didn't have a whole lot of other people that I could talk to about why I thought it was cool. Why I could talk about comic books or fantasy stuff or sci-fi stuff. It just wasn't in my orbit, really, right? Yeah. Turns out there's a lot of people that think that shit's pretty interesting and fun. Yeah. And until I get out of, you know what I mean? Until now I get out, like now we have the opportunity to get out of that and be like, oh shit, like you've also read Dune 30 times? Gnarly. Yeah. Like, let's talk about it.
I remember growing up and hiding the fact that I like punk and corn and metal and stuff because it was just something that you just didn't do. Yeah. And I would be like, what do you mean I'm listening to this? Yeah. No, I'm not listening to this. You know, so.
And so when I was in high school and going to Korn concerts, if I looked around the room and I saw a dude like you there listening to Korn, I'd be like, oh, that's the baddest man here. Dude, that dude, there's a lot going on here.
I went to Project Revolution tour.
Oh, yeah.
And I'll never forget, man, like people were like not freaked out, but, you know, it was interesting. And then, but, you know, my music taste is pretty eclectic. So I used to have people pull up next to me at stoplights and it would just be all manner of weirdness.
Yeah, like, you could almost say that your musical tastes are completely unreasonable.
My playlist is.
Yeah, exactly.
It definitely is. It definitely goes from old school hip hop to Danzig to Experience.
Yeah.
Vivaldi, you know.
Yeah.
So yeah.
No, there's been days where I've now thrashed around lifting to ratchet rap music and then also cried to other music in the same day. So the guardrails are real off on music anymore.
That song by the Black Pumas, Colors.
Mm-hmm.
Side note, if a song can feel like a feeling, that song sounds like what joy feels like. You know, like I've heard, I think 3 songs that just hit me every time. And it's not in a sad way. One of them's in a sad way. But just like, they feel like you're getting slammed with a fucking ton of bricks. And that's Colors by the Black Pumas, Eating Like Kings by Sean James.
So excited for what you're about to say.
And I don't think, you know, She Talks to Angels by the Black Crowes.
Okay. Yeah. No, I did not. I mean, I would have, if you had given me 20 guesses, I might have got there, but that's a good one. Yeah. That's a good one.
Chili Peppers.
I did.
Yeah. It's Soul to Squeeze.
Yeah.
Soul to Squeeze is my go-to, but that's a different thing. Soul to Squeeze is my go-to, like, everything's going to be okay song.
Sure.
Like, the world could blow up and I'll be like, boop, you know, like, it's zombies.
We're listening to Chili Peppers up on the roof.
Well, John Frusciante, like,
It's gonna bring us home, guys. Don't worry about it. Yeah.
Where's my rifle?
I'm up here in my perch, right, collecting rations. Yeah, and I love that. I think that's a fun. I would like to have that conversation more sometime about music. I know how much music is a thing for the both of us. I could tell you, I got two. I don't know. I could pick a third, but I'd just be picking one. One is "Fast Car" by Tracy Chapman, because that was a song that my mom used to play for me on a record player when we lived with my grandparents. And when my mom was busting her ass working 2.5 jobs and driving to get her degree in between those other jobs and doing a million different things. That's one. And then the second one is Augustina by Pussifer. Yep. That song, just in whatever way, just, it doesn't matter what's happening. Like, it's, you have the stage when that comes on.
With that being, man, dude, we're gonna wrap this up.
I know. Hey, we're wrapping up. I'd say if you're listening to this, probably buckle up for a little bit of there's a suggested endpoint, and then this is like the after credits scene in a Marvel movie.
You don't have to be here for this part.
It won't tie into the bigger plot.
The Apparatus Must Be Unheard by Mars Volta.
Yeah.
So just to stop for a second, like, that album, first of all, is like 20 years old or some shit like that.
Uh-huh.
Every time I listen to it, it feels like the first time I listened to it.
Mm-hmm.
It's also an album that I'm well aware of that I can't play with certain. You can't tell certain people about this music because it's just like, they're just like,
I don't.
And then you just want to strangle them. Yeah. Like, why don't you get it?
Well, let's go back to your thing about showing somebody a new toy. It's like when you're stoked to show the neighborhood kids your new toy, and a kid comes over and you're like, so does this? And then he goes, huh. And he walks away. And you're like,
I don't have that feeling about much.
Yeah.
But that album, that specific song, I'm just like, what do you mean?
Mm-hmm.
You're not my people.
Yeah.
That's my initial reaction. Like,
no. I would say what part of my language is sharing music with people, but it's also part of my downfall, because if I share a song with someone, that makes it sound dramatic. If I send someone a song that I like and then I don't hear anything, I'm like, well, I guess they hate me now. Like, I guess we won't ever talk to each other again because I gave them a bad musical recommendation. I do have a third one. It's a little double dipping because we're still talking about, it's still Maynard and ever, but Zombie by Tool is another song that is, and I think we talked about this, that's music for me that if I don't know where I'm at music wise, and I know I need something, that is my blanket of just like, that's one of my, just like, this always hits. There's never a time when I don't want to hear this. Yeah.
Never. Yeah. One of the things though, like with Mars Volta and even Tool, in my opinion, is I think it's much better on headphones.
Mm-hmm. I agree with that 100%. Piped right into your ear holes. Yep.
Yeah, like Mars Volta on some noise canceling, The World Doesn't Exist headphones is primo. Like, you just like, and it's so much going on. Like, I remember in Afghanistan, and I was working out. It says I was a contractor, and I'm working out, and Mars Volta comes on, and it was the first time I realized like how much different it was, or how different it was, in my headphones.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember sitting there like just kind of like lost in the moment, like staring off into space. Because of that, because I was just like, holy shit, like, what have I got myself into?
Mm-hmm.
But anyways, yeah, those are some go-tos. Fast Car, Tracy Chapman. That's a dope song that gets.
Yeah. Well, have you heard the Black Pumas cover?
Yes.
That's also equally beautiful. And as soon as that album came out, I listened to that album, I saw that on there. I was like, and I said it to my mom. I was like, you need to listen to this.
That's a fantastic live band, by the way. That we need to go see.
Never had the chance. Put it on the list.
I've just seen them only on YouTube, but they're like, I actually think I enjoy their live music more than I have on just from the YouTube to whatever.
Well, it's like when you sent me "Flow" by Sean James. There's probably half a dozen different versions of that on Spotify. My favorite one is the recording from the YouTube video of him performing it live in that.
I mean, so we'll do this and we really will wrap it up.
Yep.
But I think that that's what we've talked about so often, and the difference between, in this case, not what you see, but what you hear. Like what you hear, versus what you listen to. Very white man can't jump, but because I think there's something to small imperfections and small asides and like paths you go down in music where it's just like a little bit of magic. It's like a little piece of like, holy shit, Miles Davis talked about it quite often, man. Like, and I'm not going to butcher the quote, but there's a bunch of like Miles Davis quotes where he talks where he gets on a dude because he fucked up. And then there's another one where the guy fucked up and he just capitalizes on it. And he talks about like that whole piece. I think there's something there that like in life, sometimes we miss.
I got it. You ready? I got it. This will be a good way to bring it back, or bring it home rather. Is maybe that's the challenge for folks to think about. Is think about what does your life look like if instead of just listening to the album in your headphones, you went and saw it live.
I like it.
What's the difference? The beautiful imperfections, the improvs, the riffs that happen. Maybe we're going to play some covers that aren't on the album that maybe we're going to do some stuff that you don't hear anywhere else other than right here at this concert right now. Yeah. And how can we create that?
Well, when I sent you the Frusciante solo, it's like, what am I listening to? Am I listening to perfection, or am I listening to a dude explore in front of 30,000 people?
Right. Not afraid to explore in a moment where there'd be a completely reasonable path to take. The completely reasonable path to take. Yep.
Yeah.
You could play it just like you played it on the album and nobody would complain and it'd be fine and everybody would go home happy. But if you're standing up there in front of 30,000 people and you're like, I'm going to do this one a little different tonight.
Yeah, I'm going to flip.
And to have the confidence. Yeah, I'm going to fucking rip this. And to have that confidence about, I'm not sure where this is going, but we're going to find out. That's it.
I fucking love it. Man, what you watch versus what you see. It's always fascinating what you listen to versus what you hear. What I listened to and then what I heard are two different things. And I'll end it with this, man. Like in an interview in the 90s, Anthony Kiedis talks about the fact that he never talks about why or what his songs are about because everyone hears something different. And I always like that because I remember listening to a song. I don't remember what song it was, but there's a plethora of songs where I've talked to people and they've been like, what I thought this song was about was X. And then I'm like, well, that's not what I heard. I mean, shit, even the White Stripes, A Ball and a Biscuit. Like, I don't know if you've ever been online and seen the arguments about what that song's about.
I have not gone that deep in a Reddit dive in a minute.
Yeah, it's some people it's about drugs, some people it's about a relationship. The tree varies. So I think that's fucking life, isn't it? Right? Like, what is this thing about? So I think we'll find out on the Unreasonable tour.
Between that and coming back in like a couple years, and when I look back in this notebook and wonder what I meant when I wrote down mammoth DNA, that's really what this is all about. It's just figuring it out.
Dude, my new goal might be to ride a woolly mammoth.
God, no one says you can't. There's no.
If we can ride Asian and African elephants, then
why not?
I mean, there's some chick out here fucking riding buffaloes.
Right.
There's a whole movie about a guy on a buffalo, so whatever. Do what I want. My life.
I'll do what I want. I'll do what I want. That's right. Appreciate you.
Welcome to the tour and stay tuned. Let's get weird.